pals. I'm just gonna be talking about some stuff that I had dabbled into on my Snapchat story, just kind of all put together. It's basically talking about like homelessness and like low-income families and how the government could actually be assisting these people. I think it's really cool information and stuff that we should know more about it, especially in our age bracket. Um, it's important and it means a lot to me. Especially because I grew up in a low income family. My mom has been on disability since like 2012. So I definitely grew up in getting these assistances, and I think it's really important for people to like understand and like you can put a face to people that are getting that. I'm not ashamed of that. These are just my circumstances. So I kind of wanted to give like some more information about that. Um, I will be listing all of the documents that I'm getting, the articles, the statistics, all of that. I'll just be listing all my sources. Let's kind of delve into that. So I initially just started my, I have just like a Google Doc here that I have with all the information that I wanted to talk about so I didn't forget. But so I initially just looked and I was like, how much would it cost to end homelessness? With the severe weather that we're experiencing right now, I'm thinking about COVID, things like that. The homeless demographic is more at risk to be affected by these different things. So I wanted to know what, as a federal government, we could do, because a lot of people, we talk about all these rich people that have Jeff Bezos, for example. If Jeff Bezos decided to do this, he could pay for stimulus checks, things like that. Now, granted, yes, he could. And if I was in his circumstance of wealth, I would. But that's a different conversation for a different day. And I understand that people are like, well, that's his money. He earned it. He deserves the right to keep it. Whatever. I'm just speaking strictly on how the government could redo the budget to help and provide more assistance. That's what I want to talk about. So one of the things that I found from the New York Times article was just talking about the different low income assistance they give to families. So that's basically like housing assistance. So it's about $19 billion that they budget towards housing assistance a year. And that only covers one out of every four family that would qualify for the assistance. Not even half the families that qualify for the assistance, but one in every four. That means 3 out of 4 families that need the assistance don't get it, because the government puts a cap on how much they want to spend towards that. Now, it would cost an additional $41 billion to cover all of in the United States, to cover all of the low-income families that would qualify for that assistance. That's about $60 billion, which to you and me is a lot of money. So I definitely understand that that's like a huge number that we're like, well, where's that money coming from? Gotcha. So just another thing, I also looked up with HUD, which is I don't remember what the abbreviation is. It's like I have a billion different. HUD is the Housing Urban Development. So the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So when I say HUD, that is what I'm referring to. So basically, this is a dated article. I will again provide that. But in the newer article that I have from the New York Times, they did also give the number for that as well. But in 2012, so December 2012, a HUD official did publicly disclose that it would cost about $20 billion to house all the homeless people. $20 billion. So, and then included in the New York Times article, the new one, it said here that for the federal government, this is a direct quote, for the federal government, it's a rounding error. Even if the cost per person were twice as high, the nation's homeless population could be housed for $10 billion a year, which is less than the price of one aircraft carrier. So that's just, some information there. So previously it was about $20 billion to solve the homelessness issue. I basically in 2012, which they have put in a lot of initiatives to help with that, but obviously that is not enough. So it would cost about $10 billion a year. About now to house all the homeless people. That's not talking about any additional assistance that they would need, but that is for housing them. It's about $10 billion. Now, let's talk. We're going to talk about the federal discretionary budget. The discretionary budget is money I have the definition. Discretionary spending is money that can move around, so it's not mandatory spending that we need to keep the country functioning. So your mandatory spending is completely different. Like, that's the money that we need to keep everyone alive and to keep everything going the way that it is. Versus discretionary spending is kind of, they're allowed to fiddle around with that. What do we need? What do they want to do? What would benefit? I was a little upset about this number. So $730 billion goes to, of our discretionary money goes to the military. And that is not including VA or like VA affairs or anything like that. That is completely different. So yeah, it's 53% of the budget. So the federal discretionary spending budget for 2019 was $1.38 trillion. The military budget was $730 billion, so that's 53% of that. We are spending on science discretionary spending. We are spending 3% of that, 3% of the 1.38 trillion, which is $35 billion. Food and agriculture, we're spending 1%, which is $16 billion. Housing and community, we are spending $88 billion, which is 6%. Veterans, we're spending $87 billion, which is also 6% as well. Just kind of like a ballpark of what we're doing. Now, if we were to cut the military budget by 10%, so taking it from the 53% of that to 43%, you would have, I have this number down, it's pretty easy, $73 billion. $730, 10% of that, $73 billion. $73 billion would pay, obviously they already spend $19 billion to help the low-income family. So if we cut the military budget by 10%, that would cover the cost of $41 billion to help all the families that qualify for low-income housing assistance that don't receive that, as well as to solve the issue of housing our homeless population with money to spare. 41 plus $10 billion. That is $51 billion, and you have 73 to work with. To me, this seems like a no-brainer. That's leaving you at $22 billion, which you can use to help with providing more assistance to that homeless demographic that you are getting off the street. I have a lot of statistics on who's being affected by homelessness in America, kind of how that works, and I'll be including some of the charts with that. Which race is the most effective? It is the white demographic at 270,607 people, and then black is 225,735 people. And then it's like by like gender, it is mostly male. I have basically all of this, like the male, the race and ethnicity, trends in homelessness, and I'll be providing a link basically to all this information because, like, let's talk about it. They talk about how, like, COVID is more effective towards them. I just, in my personal opinion, I don't understand why this is not something we're doing now. That's a big deal to me. I don't know if it's a big deal to anyone else, and if it's not, that's fine. But I just don't understand why we need to be spending this much money towards our military budget. I looked it up yesterday, and the next highest military, so okay, and I grabbed the number for basically 2019, the military spending for the total was China was at $261 billion. We are double the size. The next highest one is India at 71.1, and the next is Russia at $65.1 billion. Like, we don't need to be spending that money, like that much money towards our military. Like, additional discretionary. This is discretion. This is money we're choosing to put there. The military already has a mandatory budget of what they need to continue to function. So, like, 100%, like, that is already covered. Now, my dad was a veteran, so I definitely understand the importance of our military, like, taking care of them. But you also have to think, a lot of veterans are affected by homelessness. We need more therapy, different things. We're thinking in the grand scheme of things, what we can do to better America. And this is one of those things. I don't know, I think it's really interesting. I have some more information, just a little bit more to share with you guys, and then I will be done. And if you were watching this, thank you. Okay, so basically, in the article that I was referring to earlier, they talked about like the next step is pretty expensive. So families pay 30% of their income towards rent. The government pays the rest. That's how the vouchers work. Again, 3 and 4 eligible families don't receive vouchers. Kind of talking about that. This is an example without even touching the military budget that they included. So where do you get that money? The government annually provides 70 billion tax breaks to homeowners, including a deduction for mortgage interest payments and a free pass on some capital gains for home sales. So this person had said, let's end homelessness instead of subsidizing mansions. Seems pretty fair to me. They have the money to be paying those taxes. Something Jared had said. So Donald Trump had his tax break at a 21%, and Obama had his at 35%, and Joe Biden plans to have his at 28%. So these are people that are making hundreds of thousands of money that we will never see. I think I saw a statistic somewhere. Again, don't quote me because I actually don't remember this information or where to find it. But it said, actually I do remember. It was talking about Jeff Bezos, and I will actually include that. But it's talking about like the world's wealth. I think it was like saying like the average American person will make $1 million in their entire life. Their entire life. You imagine you live until you're 70 years old, and the entire time, say you start working when you're 15 and until 70, and the entire time you were alive, you made $1 million. That entire time. Does that not astonish any of you? Because it does me. I'm just saying that a lot of the reason that politicians don't want to cut the military budget is because apparently it is political suicide. The military is very pushed in America. You probably know that. Again, nothing against the military, but that budget does seem a little high. When we have issues like homelessness at such a vast majority, and you think $41 million to help people that need money to pay their bills. That means helping people get above the poverty guideline. You're helping them do that. I mean, there's a lot of things that need to be done. A lot of reforming that we need to do, especially with helping with the homelessness issue. Decriminalizing certain, sorry, I had a hiccup. Decriminalizing certain things like decriminalizing marijuana, providing jobs that accept people with felony records, because you have people that end up in jail. You have homeless people, like we're criminalizing drugs, and that's an addiction. Like it's a mental illness. It's like there has to be a give and a take so that we can help these people better themselves. We can help them be better. We can do better, because the logic is, well, that wouldn't work. It doesn't work. Universal health care doesn't work. Providing money to the people doesn't work. All the other first world countries are doing it. What makes us any different? And I think it just kind of affects me a little bit more. Again, I grew up in poverty. I am a woman of color. I am queer. So I am in the minority that is not cared about necessarily by the government. And so I think this is just something that you have to look into. I think a lot of what I want to do is I want to spend this time. We have Joe Biden in our presidency. I want to spend the next 4 years using whatever little platform I have to educate the people around me, because I think it's important, because I don't think you should care about, who you're electing just for the president. It's your local reps, it's your senators, your House of Representatives. Those people that you are having represent you are the ones that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Mitch McConnell makes like $190,000 a year. How does that make you feel? $190,000 a year. And he doesn't have to worry about passing a stimulus because he doesn't need it. Because whether he gets anything passed or doesn't get anything passed, he's still getting paid. And what are we getting? I think there's just I think, in my personal opinion, there's a big divide between the parties where they're trying to push us against each other, but it's not us against each other. It's classism. It's classism at its finest. Your politicians are politicians at the end of the day. There's a very small amount of politicians that care about you as a person. Bernard Sanders is someone that has, through his record, shown that he has cared about people. You have your progressives, basically like your justice, I think it's like Justice Democrats. If I do believe, I might not be right. I don't remember the name. I think it's Justice Democrats. They're like progressive, and they care about people. They don't take corporate tax money because corporate tax money is bribe money for them to help the corporations. I'm sorry, it is what it is. And I would like to say that, like, oh, just because these people are donating to your campaign doesn't mean that you have to do things that benefit them. But if someone's helping you pay to get elected, don't you want to help your friend? Because that's what it ends up being like in politics. So I guess I just want to educate you guys. I want to give you guys a lot of information. I'm probably going to have to edit this a lot, but yeah, this is kind of it. I think that's all I really had to say. Remember to look into who you're voting for. It's really important, not just for you, but for your children. As we can see, the climate change is an issue, and we need to be taking aggressive steps to help with that. We need to have politicians and representatives representing the American people, because if I promise you, if our Congress people were making the same amount, I make $30,000 a year, about $32,000 a year. If our Congress people were making the same amount of money as me, they would be more aggressive in making sure that you have the assistance you need, that you're having universal health care, that you're getting stimulus when you need it, UBIs, that we're helping with the homeless demographic. If they did not get to live in their little bubble, they would understand. And I think that's something that's really important, that we all need to remember that we're not in the same level with them anymore. They're making $190,000 a year. That's, I don't know, like 7 times what I make. 7? Okay, a little less than 7, about 6-ish. Yeah, about 6 times what I make. That is a little frustrating. I don't know. That's just me, and that's all I had to tell you guys today. So if you're watching, thanks. If you liked what I had to say, you can share it. If you didn't, that's okay. I mean, it's my opinion based off of statistics and facts that I was given, and you can come to a different one because we all experience the world differently. The only thing that I don't accept as a difference of opinion is when you are hurtful to people about their right to exist. And some other things, and I'll be talking about more controversial topics because I kind of like doing this, so